I'm Aleah, and I'm the host of Collective Mind, and I'm going to do my Meet the Altars video, but I'm going to be knitting because if I don't fidget with something, I get too nervous. So like I said, my name is Aleah. You can see the avatar that I made for myself, the picture I made for myself in the corner, and it also shows my pronouns, so I use she, her pronouns, and I am the host for the whole system, but I'm also the host of the music core subsystem. I think I'm younger than our body is by a little bit. So our body is actually about to turn 24, which is really weird. I think I'm more in like the 19 to 21 range maybe, but I do age slide, and I slide very young sometimes and fairly young frequently. Onyx, my fiance, gets me to age slide all the time. Not like she's trying to make me slide necessarily, but just like I'm really comfortable around her, and so I end up sliding a lot around her because I feel safe and comfortable. Like certain types of affection and stuff will make me slide too if I feel safe enough, like pets and stuff like that. I'm feeling so awkward. I don't like talking about myself. Speaking of pets and stuff like that, you can probably tell from my picture that I don't look a whole lot like the body does. Obviously my hair is really different. I think I'm even slightly paler inside than the body is, and I have very platinum, like silvery platinum hair. But you can also probably see at the top that I have fox ears, so I have Arctic fox ears inside. And so it's kind of complicated because I can't see inside our inner world, at least currently. I can sense a lot of things. I can hear people when they're close, at least usually, but I can't go inside or see inside. So like I'm always either fronting or like co-fronting pretty much, and I can't like go inside and no longer be aware of the front, and if someone else is fronting, I'm not seeing the inner world then either. So because of that, I know what I look like mostly from just like instinct, I guess. And some of it's like been confirmed from other altars inside, but I don't know if I have any other like fox traits, and I don't know if it's different when I'm little, and like all kinds of stuff. So there's some stuff I don't even really know about myself inside, which is kind of complicated, and I don't know how common that is, because there are still, and I'll get more to this a little bit later in this video, but because there are still some altars inside who don't necessarily want me to know a ton of stuff as the host, I don't always know a ton of stuff. So yeah, but I definitely have Arctic fox ears. I've had that confirmed by several people, and yeah. And then I'm gonna jump to the necklace I'm wearing. I don't know how well you can see, but it's a little dolphin necklace. And for anyone who watched Emily's video playing Minecraft, I think it was the second video we uploaded. Charlie. Oh, she's in shot. That's Charlie, my service dog, if anyone doesn't know. This is Emily's necklace that I'm wearing because she's a pink dolphin inside. I'm wearing it because she is my daughter inside. So I'm Emily's mom, and I wanted to wear her necklace for this video, and she gave me permission and all that. I guess I'll start going through my roles, so you can see at the top of the screen I have them up there. I'm one of the executives. So I think we said this a few times, but executives are the group of altars that make like bigger decisions in our system. Anytime we buy anything at least one executive has to approve that. So executives can buy things or can tell someone else that they can buy things. And then bigger decisions like going back to school was a big decision, living with our partner system was a big decision, things like that. Those would be a vote. And then there are some really, really, really big decisions that have to be unanimous with all the executives. But I'm also the host, like I said. I'm kind of the only host right now. Anna wants to be able to co-host more, but is really busy inside right now, like she said in her video. And Jade functionally kind of co-hosts with me, but she also has stretches where she's really busy inside. So I'm the only one that we're actually calling a host right now. I wouldn't mind some co-hosts, but people have stuff to do inside, and I understand that. But I definitely front the most, and that'll depend some on the day, because there could definitely be a day where, like, Jade's out all day, or, like, littles are out most of the day, or things like that. But, like, I have been out for the most part for the past several days. And there are a lot of times little moments where, like, a little will switch with me for a couple minutes, or even just, like, a minute or a handful of seconds or something, but then I'll end up switching back with them. Usually because something just caught their attention for a minute, but it's definitely mostly me, and has been even more so mostly me lately. And then kind of going along with being host, I'm also primary task manager, which is mostly just kind of a side effect of being host in a way, at least in our case, because I'm out a lot, so I end up doing a lot of, like, school and other just, like, life responsibility things, grocery shopping, laundry, all that fun stuff. And Anna does help me with those things when she can and she's not too busy, but I do a lot of it. So yeah, those are my roles. But if you watched Anna's Meet the Alters video, you'll know that I have not always been our system's main host. Anna was our main host in childhood, and then our whole system kind of turned upside down for a bit when we became a teenager. All kinds of stuff changed all at once in our system, and one of the big ones was that Anna stopped being host and started working towards being a caretaker inside. So that's when I became host, which I don't remember that transition because I didn't... It's complicated. I have learned, since learning about the system, I have learned that before becoming host, I was actually our main gatekeeper. But I think what I've put together from things people have told me is that I split in all of the system craziness around the time that Anna stopped hosting, and that, like, I was one of the resulting alters from the split, and the other one continued gatekeeping, but I started hosting. So I lost, like, my awareness of the system as a whole and stuff going on inside when that transition happened, and I'm pretty sure it's because I split, which is kind of weird for me to think about, that before then I would have known a lot of stuff about the system as a gatekeeper. It's really weird for me to think about, because I just learned about the system a little over a year ago, and I'm still learning a lot of stuff about it every day. It's a process, and it's as people feel comfortable opening up about things and all of that stuff. One of the first things that occurred to me when I was starting to realize that I was part of a system is that I only have, like, a handful of very vague memories from childhood until like 13, until like age 13. So that's not common for people to have almost no memories from their entire childhood until they become a teenager, and for the few memories they have to be super vague. Apparently, I never like thought anything of it, I guess. I would have, like, especially at family reunions and things like that, I would have people all of the time like tell me stories about my childhood and ask if I remember them, and I would say I didn't, and it never really was questioned because I guess they thought that that moment just didn't stick out in my mind, or for some of the younger ones, like maybe I was too young and I wouldn't still remember, that type of thing. But like I should remember more stuff from when I was 12, you know? That's not too young to have clear memories. So that was one of the big things that stood out to me, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because I am going to tell that story, from my perspective at least, of how I found out that I am part of a system. Because it's a story. I have been really interested in psychology overall for a long time, and I have been like in and out of therapy for a long time for other mental health issues, mainly for like anxiety and depression. And I have been super interested in psychology, like I said. So I watch a lot of psychology videos on YouTube, and one day last spring, YouTube recommended me a video from a DID YouTuber, and it looked interesting, so I watched it, and I liked their personality and I liked the video, so I watched some more of their videos, and I ended up like head first diving into a few DID YouTuber channels and watching a ton of their videos in a few days. And I thought it was just a normal, like, oh, I have a new obsession or whatever that I'm just really interested in and want to learn more about. It was actually Anthony Padilla's video last year talking about DID, where something in that video just made me stop and think. And I don't even remember exactly what it was. It was something about how covert it is, and how the point, at least in most cases or a lot of cases, is for the host to not know about it and to not notice things that don't add up and all of that stuff. And that stuck with me, and I started thinking about that a lot. And this part is kind of hard to explain, but it was like I was feeling pushback almost, like against thinking about the possibility. What was happening, which I didn't realize, is our main persecutor protector at the time did not want me to know about the system, and was very actively, but as subtly as possible, trying to convince me that I was looking into something that wasn't really there, and that I was just all kinds of stuff of trying to convince me that it didn't make any sense and that I was just making something out of nothing, that kind of thing. And I know now that there were a lot of gaslighting techniques and things like that being used, and it was very stressful for me because I thought that I was just like trying on a new possible diagnosis that seemed interesting to me, or that I was like almost a hypochondriac in a way. Like I thought I had absolutely no evidence to go off of, and that it didn't make any sense for me to even be thinking about it, and that I should stop watching those videos, and like all that stuff. But it was really hard for me to let it go. So I ended up the night before I had my next therapy appointment, I ended up in my bullet journal just making a list of like any even tiny reasons that made me wonder if I had DID. And the point of the list, in a way, was almost to like prove to myself how short the list was, but I ended up filling like 6 back-to-back pages or something like that, and it started out with some little things, and then by like the 3rd page it occurred to me that I remember basically none of my childhood, and that I have a lot of symptoms that I would notice consistently that line up with certain types of trauma that I don't remember, and that I specifically had a lot of symptoms before the earliest trauma that I remember, because there was a trauma that I knew about when we were 13 during the whole chaos in our system, which I didn't know about that part, but during that whole thing there was a trauma event that happened then, and I knew about at least part of that. And so anytime that I saw like any trauma symptoms in myself, I just assumed it was that. But I realized, like, looking at older things that I had written and thinking back about some of the things I do remember, or some of the stories people have told me, is that there were very clear signs, especially in my writing, that I, or we, but I hadn't admitted that to myself fully yet, that we had trauma that I didn't know about from earlier. And like I had writings from when I was like 10, 11 years old talking about having flashbacks over and over about like scary things that had happened. Like that level of describing PTSD symptoms from before I remembered having any trauma. So that was the point that it started scaring me some, because it wasn't supposed to be real. It was just supposed to be like a paranoid thought that I had to prove to myself wasn't real in order to be fully satisfied. And I brought it to my therapist the next morning after not getting much sleep that night, and we agreed to like talk through it. We talked through it for many months, and very eventually, that was like late March or early April, I think, 2020, and either at the end of August or beginning of September of 2020 was when he diagnosed me. And between there, I had like officially met several alters, but I have met many, many more since then, and like my therapist had talked to a few of them, but it was very slow going at first, because that one persecutor protector really, really did not want me to learn anything, and everything I did learn, he wanted that to be the only thing I knew. And that made it a slow process, but it also made it harder for any other alters who did want to like introduce themselves to me, or wanted to be able to act like themselves if we were home alone. But the problem with that is, since I'm always co-fronting, if they act like themselves and not like me, I'm watching them act like themselves, so it's like more evidence for me basically that I'm not just making it up. And Emily, my daughter who I mentioned earlier, was actually the first alter in our system to like very directly indicate in any way that she was out and not me, that she was controlling the body, that she was talking as herself. It was actually on Discord the first time, and she like made a member for herself on Pluralkit and started talking as herself. She didn't use her name, she used like Anonymous Little or something like that, but she talked to some people on a mental health server as herself, and that was the first like very clear time that anyone had ever not pretended to be me when they were out. And Jade was actually the next one. So yeah, it was a slow process at first, and then when we met Primal Pack, also on Discord, and started talking to them a lot more, that helped a lot for a lot of our alters to feel more comfortable and to understand that it was actually safe to be themselves and introduce themselves to me and to Primal Pack and on Discord just generally if they wanted to and stuff like that. So it became another chaotic time of our whole system kind of turning upside down, because the way that everything had worked suddenly wasn't the way things worked anymore, because everything was about hiding things from everyone, including, if not especially, me. So suddenly having people be able to use their own voice and use their own name, and especially to sound little or to sound less feminine or anything like that. It was a process because there was still a lot of pushback from several alters who thought that the way things used to be was the only way things could be, the only way that we could be safe, all of that. And it was really, really hard for them to even start to let go of that control, because they didn't know what I was going to do with that information, and I didn't know a lot of safety related information that they knew, and they didn't want me to know. They wanted to keep protecting me from that information. But if I knew other information and didn't know the stuff tied to safety, I could unknowingly put us in a really bad position. So that was part of the thought process of keeping me out of the loop. But with a lot of work and therapy, and especially a lot of talking through things with our partner system, we changed up the executives some and made a new policy that active persecutors who are actively acting like persecutors can't be executives. If they start working on changing, they can be executives in training, and then as they show some consistency with that, they can be voted in to be an executive. But we didn't want things to be run through control and fear anymore, because we're safe now and we want to be able to act like we're safe now. So yeah, that's kind of an overview of my perspective of how I found out about the system. I don't know if any of the protectors who were involved in that might talk about their side of things at some point. I'm not sure. I know one of the main ones who would be the most equipped for that and have a lot of interesting perspectives on it isn't available right now. I can't switch right now, but also would not like the makeup I'm wearing. So we will probably come back to that at some point in the future. There was a lot going on that I learned about way after the fact. We were having a whole civil war in our inner world that I didn't know about until way after. So it was chaotic. It was very, very stressful for me and for everyone inside dealing with it. But we're past that point now, and people have pretty much come to terms with and agreed with me knowing about the system now, and I have kind of proven myself a little bit that I'm not just going to start sharing vulnerable information about triggers or anything like that, and that I will also, even if I don't understand why, I'm gonna respect boundaries. So if Jade tells me there's something that is totally private and nobody gets to know about it, but she wants to talk about it while I'm watching, because I'm always co-fronting. If she wants to talk about it in therapy, or if she wants to talk to her fiance about it, if she doesn't want anyone else to know about that, I'm not going to tell anyone else about that. That's her thing to talk about if and when she ever wants to, and that's not mine to share. So I have been able to show over time now that I'm not going to assume that it's my right to share information like that. And that if someone sets a boundary that I don't understand, there are things going on that I don't know about. So there's a lot of cooperation involved, which is hard. It's hard, like, not having full control over my own life, and having to rely on other people to help keep me safe from things I don't even really know about. That can be really scary. But I have also, like, built relationships with especially some of the major protectors over the past year. And I know them now, but I also know that they have been doing this for a long time, long before I knew that they were even there. And I can trust them. They know what they're doing, and I can trust them. And if I don't agree with something they're doing, we can talk about it. And if they say, I know something about this that you don't know, I need you to trust me on this, I'm gonna trust them on it. Unless there's, like, other evidence that they're not being nice. Like, if I'm not gonna necessarily trust a persecutor to that extent without, like, someone else also vouching for them, but that also depends on what it is, because some things aren't a big deal to just not do. Like, I would never share, like, triggers or anything about a persecutor that they didn't want me to share. But if there's, like, a policy decision that I disagree with or something like that, and they say, just trust me, they need to give me reasons to trust them, that kind of thing. So it's all really complicated, and that's not as much about me, so I will probably wrap it up here. If you have questions for me, feel free to ask in comments or come over to our Discord. That link is in the description as always. The link to our Etsy shop is also in the description. Yeah, that is a little bit about me. So like and subscribe and ring the bell and all of those fun things, and let me know what you thought. Thanks for watching. Bye!